Hi guys, and welcome back to Between Us Girlies. I'm Bran.
I'm Lindsay.
I'm Bailey.
I'm Casey.
And today we are recording our first ever episode not in our studio. We are in Harrisburg today with honorary girlie, Governor Josh Shapiro.
Love that. Great to have you guys.
Great to be
at
here.
The governor's residence.
I know, this is amazing.
We're excited.
We're honored. Thank you for having us.
I'm thrilled you're here.
We have something to address.
Uh-oh.
The Eagles
Yes.
won the Super Bowl. How are we feeling?
So I thought what you were going to go to was your cheetah pants that made an appearance at the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
They did.
I thought that was sort of story A, and maybe the birds win was story B.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take too much credit because the team worked very hard this year.
Yeah.
But we did have a good luck charm in my cheetah pants.
Yeah, I think the pants kind of put them over the top.
I think so as well.
How about the birds? I mean, they were unbelievable.
Let's hear it for the
They go
birds.
off to that 2-2 start, a little slow, a little sluggish, go into the bye, make the changes, and then they come out and they just rip off win after win after win. They were unbelievable.
It was amazing.
Unbelievable. And the vibes, were you guys at the parade?
So I wasn't at the parade, but the first Super Bowl that we won, I watched in Philly with my friends.
Yeah.
And the second one we watched in Philly. And this Super Bowl, I had a feeling that I should watch it with my dad, who made me an Eagles fan, who brought me into this crazy fandom. And I had to beg him because he was like, I want to watch it in my man cave in my basement where my superstitions are. But I begged him to come up to Philly and we got to watch it together. And it was like the best experience of my
special.
entire life. Like watching it with him, this game,
Yeah.
like where we just blew them out. There was no moment of stress or worry. Oh my God, it was everything. It was really nice.
That must have been really special time.
Yeah, I cried like 300 times. So it was just
That's
like
so cool.
for the Eagles and for my family. I was like, this is the best
great.
day ever.
Tell me about your fit. We know Brand's fit. What was your fit during the game?
I had to wear cheetah pants, obviously. So we did have cheetah pants, and then I wore the same sweatshirt I've been wearing all season.
Yeah.
So I had to keep the superstition, but I was a little nervous to try the cheetah pants because I hadn't worn them yet. But I was like, these are too powerful. I think it'll work, and it did.
I love it. I love it.
It did.
That's awesome.
We had hung out in New Orleans before the game. You predicted the score was going to be 31-27.
Yeah, I was wrong.
How shocked were you when the score was, what was it, 40
to
I
22.
want to say 40-6, though.
Yeah.
When you really think about
Bill,
it.
you're right.
Thank you.
I actually looked up like an hour. I'm like, wait, how did they get 22 points?
Right?
Because, I thought the Birds would score a bunch of points. I did not see that coming. And they just shut down Mahomes, took away the passing lanes, didn't blitz once, which was unbelievable. And it was just an awesome team effort. Really, total team effort. It was great.
I love it. So the last time we chatted was March of 2024. We're back now in February of 2025. You look great.
Oh, thank you.
What's your workout routine? What's your wellness?
It's been a year. I feel like I've aged 25 years over
Absolutely
the
not.
last year.
My mom texted me when I posted the interview, and she was like, "He looks amazing.
I
like,
love
what
your
is
mom."
his skincare routine? What is the wellness? Can you give us like a quick wellness tip?"
You serious? You want to know
Absolutely.
what I do?
Yeah. What's your
All right.
secret?
So it's a little different each day, just depending upon my crazy schedule. But if I can get a walk-in with my wife, that's super important. Both the physical fitness and just the mental well-being and connecting with my wife. Oftentimes we're like running all over the world.
Yeah.
So that is really important. I definitely, first thing in the morning, I try and lift, whether I'm here or whether I'm at home. I think that's important. And, you're like, oh, I mean, I'm not lifting like 1,000,000 pounds, but I'm doing what I got to do to stay fit. And then just like eating, just try not to eat a lot of processed crap, and 3 meals a day. That's it. I'm not like a calorie counter or anything, but just 3 meals a day, nothing super processed. That's what I do.
Love it.
Let's write this down, girls.
Yeah, everybody get a pen and paper.
We may or may not be getting fast food after this, but
don't do that.
starting tomorrow.
Actually, a buddy turned me on to an app. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention an app on this, but it's called Yuka, Y-U-K-A.
Oh, yeah.
You know about Yuka?
I do.
And so basically you can zap any barcode for any food and find out what kind of junk is in there and how it scores from like a quality thing. So just cutting out like bars and chips and that kind of stuff that might not be as good for you.
We just binged chips in the other room.
Did you?
So
Okay, but it's the good ones.
Cookies.
It's the good ones.
Yeah.
Like, or finding the alternative that's better for you. That's what I try to do.
You still need to enjoy life, but just
Right.
do
Yeah.
it healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at some Whole Foods at Sheets after this.
Yeah.
Let's see their
Sheets is
healthy.
great.
Yeah, it
There
is.
you go.
I love it. And everything else is good? Family, everything's great?
Thank God, man. Everything is great. Kids are great. In the last year, our daughter graduated college.
Wow,
We've got now a son
congratulations.
who's a sophomore at Pitt. then 10th grader, 8th grader, 2 boys at home playing a lot of sports, doing good stuff.
Wow.
So I'm really blessed.
Amazing.
So, Gov, there's a lot going on right now in the world.
Really?
What's going on? Talk to us about your experiences, things that are important to you right now, positives, negatives. Like, what's going on? We haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, look, like every day, I'm just fighting to make progress for Pennsylvania, right? Put points on the board, to use a football term. I mean, I really feel like that's my job. At a baseline level, if you're governor, you got to keep people safe, and you got to like accomplish things for them, make their lives just a little bit better, a little bit easier. And that's what I try and do every day. You know, making sure kids have a great quality education, no matter their zip code. They got safe streets to walk down, no matter what community they live in, and that there's economic opportunity in Pennsylvania. Those are kind of like the 3 basic functions that, you know, I focus on every day. And I'll tell you something else with this administration in Washington, there's a 4th thing I'm focused on like a laser beam, and that is protecting people's rights and freedoms, right? There is an overreach coming out of Washington to try and limit the ability for women to make decisions over their own bodies, for kids to be who they are, for you to be able to marry who you love, to be able to, you know, look at the world in the way that, you know, is open and tolerant and loving and understanding. That's trying to be undermined and eroded in so many ways. And so I feel like it is my responsibility to stand up and protect all Pennsylvanians here. And so that's a big focus of my work as well.
Amazing. And what do you think are some ways that we can sort of fight back? So as Pennsylvanians, as Black women, as LGBTQ, as what can we be doing to sort of get involved and sort of fight back on some of the things that are, you know, not so great right now?
Yeah. Don't watch cable TV, rip your hair out, and then feel helpless. I want to start there because I hear it from folks, whether Laura and I are walking on a trail and people stop us, or we're out to dinner in Ambler this weekend. You guys ever been to Cantina Feliz?
Yeah, of course.
How great is that place, right? So we're out to dinner, and I mean, like, I don't know, 30, 40 people came over to us, and they're worried, and they're scared, and I get that. And I think that the best way to deal with the worry is not to retreat and feel like you can't do anything, but to be active and engaged. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can do it here, right, on your show, on your channels, and letting people know what's important to you, and you want them to rise up and speak out about that. You call your congressman, your senator, reach out to the White House, tell them, you know, what you like, what you don't like. You can hold me and other elected leaders accountable for the things that matter most to you. I think now is a time where we have to have people engaging in our politics, not being afraid to engage. I know that, you know, part of the effort by the administration in Washington is to instill fear in certain communities and try and quiet people down. Now more than ever, we need people to rise up and speak up. And that work is not just done by people like me with titles next to our name, but people like you that have immense platforms to reach people and get them engaged around the issues that matter most. So I think engagement is the key. Apathy is our enemy.
Amazing. And do you think during this time, so this big, we just had a huge election, do you, looking back at that, see any mistakes or lessons or any just information that you could give to our listeners about maybe some things that either party may have done incorrectly that maybe prevented us from, you know, being less fearful or being less engaged? Like, what were some things that maybe you learned from this election? And again, both parties, but...
I think that there was a real apathy and frustration in our politics. I'm sure you guys have heard this. You girlies have heard this. I think when politics doesn't work to yield progress, people get apathetic. They get frustrated. What did I say before? My job is to put points on the board. You might not agree with every single position I have. I might not agree with every single position you have. But I need you to know I'm fighting every day to make progress. And I need you to see the results of that. And I think people largely do with us. I think they stopped seeing the effect of the work, and in some cases didn't see work at all in the areas that they cared most about. And they got frustrated. They got apathetic. I don't blame people for that. I blame the politicians in D.C. for that. And when you get frustrated, sometimes you retreat. And maybe that means you don't vote. So I think that's part of it. And again, I don't blame the folks that necessarily stayed at home, I blame the conditions that were set by the so-called leaders who made them feel that way. So I think that's part of it. I also think, it is incumbent upon us to treat everyone with respect. Whether you have a college degree or don't have a college degree, whether you decide that you believe in X or you believe in Y. And I think too oftentimes we've gotten very divisive and we've separated people instead of trying to bring them together. We've said, hey, Brand, if you don't agree with everything I believe in, well then we're going to kind of push you off to the side. And I think that serves to divide our politics. And let's speak candidly, Donald Trump took advantage of those divisions.
Yeah.
And he won the election based on that. So I think there's a lot of lessons, but it primarily comes back to showing your work, making people feel less apathetic or frustrated with their government, and making people feel empowered regardless of what they look like, where they come from, who they love, who they pray to, how much education they have, making them feel engaged in the process. That's the work I try and do in Pennsylvania, and I think we need more of that across the country.
Yeah, I definitely think we're really blessed to have you as our governor. Even just looking through your social media, like, you are beloved. I've never seen a politician's page where it's like 90% positive comments.
Thanks.
So I love that.
I got some negative ones in there.
Yeah, 90%. You're always going to have a hater or two. Let's talk about the federal funding freeze.
Yeah.
What's going on with that? Can you
Man.
educate our listeners?
Yeah, and I know it seems super confusing, but it's actually super simple, right? So when we work as a state government, we are able to fund our schools or safety in the community or economic opportunity. We fund that based on revenues from taxes that come into our state. Pretty simple stuff. You pay a sales tax, you pay an income tax, money comes from the state, we divide it up and we reinvest it in the people. Now, some folks like the things we invest in, some folks don't, but that's the basics of how it works. It's not just state funding that we allocate, it's federal funding as well, because you pay federal taxes. And so that federal money gets divvied up and sent to the states for things like making sure you got clean drinking water, right? Just one example. And then we send those dollars out. We basically have a contract with the federal government that says you're going to give us X amount of money and we're going to use that money to do this, this, and this. That money is legally obligated to Pennsylvania. It's like a contract, simple agreement. And the federal government under Donald Trump said, we are no longer going to honor that contract. We are not going to send the money to the state to make sure that your air is clean or your water is drinkable. And so I tried to work with the White House. I tried to work with members of Congress who, by the way, voted for this money to come to Pennsylvania, right? Like, they already did that in the past. I tried to work with them to get that money released, and ultimately they were unwilling to do that. And so I sued because my job is to protect Pennsylvanians. I sued the federal government, and my simple argument is, hey, we got a contract. You told me you were sending me $1, and you never sent it. And so until you send me that $1, I'm going to have to sue you. And that's the argument that I'm making, and I think it's in the interest of Pennsylvanians to get what is ours. Remember, you paid that bill. You wrote the check to the federal government when you paid taxes. You should get that money back here. That money doesn't belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to people sitting in Washington. That money belongs here in Pennsylvania.
I'm not sure if this question's allowed, but
Anything's allowed.
what are they doing with the money? If they're holding it, where is it going?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's basically like encumbered. It's stopped. And so your money that you paid in taxes is sitting in a bank account in Washington, D.C., and not being invested here. Whereas the money you pay in state taxes, I can show you how much went to that school or how much went to that initiative to, help make sure there's health care available, whatever. I can show you that. They're keeping that money in Washington when it's owed to us here in Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
And what's wild to me, you got to think about this. We have Republican members of Congress from Pennsylvania that voted to send money back to their home state. And then Donald Trump turns around and says, you're not getting that money. And those Republican congressmen go, okay, Donald, whatever you want.
Jesus.
Think about that, right? That's just weakness.
It is.
That's profound, pathetic weakness. And we need less weakness, and we need more strength and more conviction in our politics.
Definitely.
So mind-boggling. It's
It is,
so
right?
mind-boggling.
Did I explain it though? Does it make sense?
That makes
100%.
perfect sense. Do you think they're just like, do you think they're scared of him? Like, why would they,
Cheers. Yeah, there you go.
like, or do you think they're just weak in their positions?
I think they're weak. I think they're scared of him. He's sought political retribution against them, and I just think they're kind of weak. A lot of them are weak, spineless folks that don't really have core convictions, and he bullies them. And by the way, to be a grown-ass man or woman, run for Congress, win, and then say, okay, Mr. President, I'm going to give up my vote, right, which is my
Right.
power, and let you just run things? Come on.
What was the point of it then?
Yeah. Why'd you go through that?
Like, you worked so hard to become an elected official, and
Yeah.
here you are.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons people respect you so much is because you can explain that so clearly and make that so understandable for so many people who hear this on the news and have so many misleading news articles, and they don't really understand what's going on. And when you really break it down, it is so simple, and it is so easy to understand. And I really appreciate when you do that, because I think we live in a time where it's really hard to know what to listen to and where to believe. And so when you break it down very easily, I think that's what people relate to and what people respond to, and it helps people feel a little less scared when they don't know what's going on.
I appreciate that. And listen, right back at you, I appreciate you guys. Folks are getting their news, their information from you. They trust you. And for good reason. You've developed this wonderful relationship with people. And I want them to hear your voices more. I want them to care about the world around them. And by the way, they don't have to agree with everything I put forth, but I want them to think about it. I want them to challenge, their elected leaders. I want them to think about how important these issues are. And so I'm grateful that we get to have this kind of conversation and break it down and really talk about the issues in a real way.
Yeah. Something I know I wanted to ask you is sort of kind of what we've been alluding to this whole time, that, the news is scary. There's a lot going on. It seems like every day we log on and there's a new something to be fearful of. And I struggle a lot with, part of me sort of wants to turn it all away and not pay attention to it. But you can't be ignorant to the news. We're in a time where it's really important to be educated. Yeah. It's really important to know what's going on. So, how do you navigate it? How do you protect your mental health enough that you can go about your day and live your life, but also consume what's important to consume and to know what's going on so that a right isn't taken away from you without you even knowing?
Yeah. I think it's a great question. And I don't have an amazing answer on this. I can tell you what I do. I think it is really important to be informed. And so I try and gather my news from sources that are as close to like unbiased as possible, right? Okay, like what are the facts? What happened? And then I do go and I look at, okay, kind of what's the left-wing perspective? What's the right-wing perspective? Like I want to know kind of how each side or what have you is framing this. What I try and avoid are the people who are just like entertainers who use the news to bolster themselves or their particular viewpoint. I don't really have much tolerance or patience for that. And I do try to also ignore, at least when it comes to me, just sort of like we were talking before about the comments, like I just try not to get too high from the nice comments, too low from the negative ones. I just like don't pay attention to that. Because I find for me, if I'm thinking too much about what everybody else says, then it makes it harder for me to figure out what I really believe, right? And I want my beliefs to be based on actual facts, sound information, and what real people need in their communities. And oftentimes that can be distorted by what you see served up on the internet. So for me, it comes in, I'll read all the major newspapers in Pennsylvania. I'll use like a news aggregating site like an Apple News, right, that kind of pulls a bunch of things together. Read a lot of the national news sources, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, things like that. And then I will go and sort of look at the, again, kind of the left and the right, their perspective on those events and see what folks are saying, because I think it helps me do my job better if I can understand people's different perspectives. I'll tell you, you know, like kind of keeping it for real with you guys, you know, my wife, if I turn on the news, like late in the evening or getting ready to go to bed or whatever, she's like, turn that off. I can't deal with that right before I go to bed. Or first thing in the morning, you know, we want to focus, get the kids off to school, do whatever, like don't immediately jump into that. So we also do try and put some parameters around when we engage with the news, because I know that can make people feel frustrated, angry, powerless, you name it.
It's so easy to just wake up, check your phone, and get hit with an article that scares you.
Yeah.
It's so simple. So I definitely think those, you know, boundaries are important.
Yeah.
Are there any other like mental health boundaries you sort of put in place to keep yourself from getting overwhelmed with all of this going on?
Exercise, like we talked about before. I think exercise really helps. And I can like feel it on days where I was busy and didn't get a chance to exercise. So that, you know, that's something that's really important to me, is just staying active and continuing to move. I think one of the things that would be super helpful for folks that follow you guys is for them to hear from you, you know, what sources do you go to? What do you look at? Not necessarily like showing a bias for this or that or the other thing, but like, where do you go that you trust that, you know, could maybe help other people who are grappling with this? So I think a lot of people are struggling with this right now.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think for me, it's about like keeping a close group of friends that like I know that I can have conversations with, even if they're harder conversations where we might disagree on a viewpoint. But like you said, there's so many people online that are entertainers and that are kind of providing things that they don't have good motives behind and they don't have good intentions. So if you can't trust the outside world, I think it's really important to focus internally on who you're surrounding yourself with. And it's like, I'm so honored to have 3 best friends who have been my best friends for years, where it's like, I can talk to them about anything, whether it's political, emotional, mental, physical, and they're going to have my back and they're going to listen to me, and they're not going to just yes man me and agree with everything, but they'll give me the feedback that I need, not necessarily the feedback that I want. And I think that protects your inner peace. If you can't control what's around you, control what's surrounding you as a person. We can't control the media, but control your friend group, control the people that you are having close, intimate relationships with.
I think that's super important. And look, I get that from my wife. I get that from my senior staff who challenge me like crazy all the time. I think that's really important, to have people that you can be honest with, who are going to be really honest back with you.
Yeah.
And I think if you have that in your life, then you're like less susceptible to believe some of the crap that, you know, the internet says or something like that.
Yeah. And I think too, like, at least I've learned a lot in this election year and all of this, is like, it's okay to not know the answer. I think it's something about our society right now is you have to have a hard and fast answer to every single topic, and you have to have a definitive way. And I think there's a lot of power in being like, I don't know the answer. I'm open to hearing what all the possibilities could be, but I'm not an expert in this. And I think that lets down the walls of like, I'm right about everything, because there are thousands of topics that I know nothing about that, you know, I would love to be educated on. And there's ones where I know a little bit and this is how I feel. And if you present something else, I'm listening. Like, I think, you know, not having to have an answer to every single thing.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
I think that is so smart. And I think that's really empowering. And I hope you'll say that more and more and more, because I do think people sometimes feel like, wait, I saw this big controversy, I need to take a position, I'm on this side or I'm on this side. And I think it's like really powerful to say, hey, you know what? I think that's an important issue, but I don't know enough yet to be able to weigh in on A or B. And so I want to learn more. I think it's incredible.
And I think that's really important for our listeners too. If you don't know something, like you said, Casey, it's okay to say, you know, I'm not sure of this. I remember, Gov, you had your democracy summer camp over the summer, and we talked a lot about misinformation, disinformation, and all types of information and sources and things that could go wrong. And I think that you can contribute so much to, you know, those negative words, especially misinformation. Just speaking to something you don't know can, you know, make you part of the problem when you really just wanted to be part of the solution because you felt so pressured to have a standpoint or an opinion.
Totally.
So I think that's a great point, Casey.
Totally. And I think like, you know, a tweet or a post has very few words in it. There's a lot of problems in life that are really complex that require more than just a few words. And so we can't live in this world where we feel like everything's got to be summarized in a couple quick sentences. And So I think what you said, I think what you're all saying is super important, and it's empowering. And I think there's a lot of people that look up to you, that listen to you, that watch you guys. And if they hear you, they look at you, they're like, man, she's really got her shit together. and yet she's willing to like be vulnerable and admit that you don't know something. That's really incredible. And I just think, the work you do on this channel and the work you do with empowering others by saying, I don't know, that's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Gonna start crying. Oh no. Now, we were talking about a beautiful support system, and I have to ask about our Queen First Lady.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day just passed. I was like, this past Friday? It was also the day of the parade.
Yeah.
So what did you do for Valentine's Day?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. I took her to the parade.
Okay.
Does that count?
Yeah.
I think this was like, well, first off, we don't really celebrate on Valentine's Day because it's really embarrassing, but like our first kind of Valentine's Day as an engaged couple, right? I was like 22 years old. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but the day before, I think it was the day before, I was like, shit, it's like Valentine's Day tomorrow. I gotta make plans, and we were living in DC, and I called this like really nice restaurant that we kind of couldn't afford to go to, but I was like, it's Valentine's Day, I gotta do this. And I made the reservation. I couldn't believe I got a reservation. And then there's a theater around the corner, and I was like, I'm gonna see if I can get tickets to the theater, and I got tickets, which was like incredible. So we go to dinner, we had a great dinner, and then we go to the theater, and it's intermission. I get a little personal here. I go to the restroom, and I'm in the restroom, standing between two guys, and one guy was talking to his buddy across me. He goes, what are you doing for your wife for Valentine's Day tomorrow? Oh. And I'm like, tomorrow? This guy is an idiot. Today is Valentine's Day. So I went back to my seat, and I sat down, and I looked at Laura. I'm like, hey, can I ask you a question? She's like, I was like, is it not Valentine's Day today? She's like, I didn't have the heart to tell you, but it's not. So every year since, we've always celebrated Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day Observed, which is the day before.
I love that.
So that's Valentine's Day. All because I was an idiot, like our first year of
It's probably way
celebrating
easier to
it.
get reservations.
Super
I
easy,
bet.
yeah.
Especially this
So-
year with the parade. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys become like a better couple every single time we sit down and talk
There
to
you
you.
go.
That's amazing.
Did you guys do a Valentine's Day thing after the parade, or was it like just the parade?
Did we do anything?
I was in Key West for an anniversary trip, so I did
that's
something a
fun.
little. Yeah, but I had to miss the parade, so I was a little sad
Right.
about that. But did a little nice dinner.
Key West is fun.
Yeah, it was really nice.
You go to
there.
Captain Tony's down there?
No, we didn't go to Captain.
It's great. Parrot Head Bar.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of bars. We don't drink
Yeah.
as much, so we were
Okay.
eating our way through Key West, but a lot of people were drinking their way
Nice.
through it. So
That's awesome.
Lindsay and I had a little.
Yeah, we had a date.
Yeah.
Nice. Where did you guys go?
Jerry's Bar and Northern Liberties.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did that after the parade, like
We
after
worked
the
on
city?
Friday,
Yeah.
so we couldn't go to the parade, unfortunately.
All right.
Yeah. But
We also were, we after the Super Bowl, we did go onto Broad Street, and it was an experience I've never had before,
Yeah.
and I will probably never have it again.
No.
It was just a little tight.
Yeah.
So we said, instead of the parade, let's go get happy hour.
That's great.
yeah.
Good.
So we still celebrated.
Yeah, celebrated.
There's so many events in Pennsylvania this month, and one of my favorite days is actually Groundhog's Day.
Come on. How great is that?
I know. As a Pennsylvanian, I just love Punxsutawney Phil, and I
Yeah.
have to ask, have you ever met Sir Phil?
Hell yeah. In fact, we're here in the Erie Room at the governor's residence in my office, which is right down the hall here. There's a plaque on the wall that I am an honorary member of the Inner Circle.
Are you really?
I really am. The Inner Circle, of course, is the gang that protects Phil. Phil, of course, I've made our official state meteorologist. Phil knows all.
Right.
And I've been governor now for a little more than 2 years for 3 Groundhog Days, and I've been to all 3. And it's crazy. I mean, you
bet.
go out to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, real rural, and there's like 40,000 people that show up 1, 2 in the morning.
That's insane.
It's an incredible celebration.
I love it.
And right around daybreak, Phil comes out, tries to see his shadow, and tells us if we're going to have more winter. It would appear that Phil was right this time. I mean, Phil's always right, but
Yes.
especially this time, because it's cold as heck out there.
It's 10 degrees outside.
Yeah. And yeah, Phil's pretty amazing. It is an awesome event. I love Groundhog Day.
I want to go to Groundhog's Day.
Yeah,
It's
amazing.
yeah.
I love it. There's so many things to love about Pennsylvania. Like, even with the Super Bowl, like, knowing how much that meant to so many families in this state and how many family traditions are built around that sport. And then you hear something like this, and it's like, how many family traditions are built around that? Like, there's so much personality here. I love it so much.
Pennsylvania's having a decently good month, so keep it up.
Yeah, we're doing great.
I love it. Well, Gov, we talk a lot on this podcast about TikTok.
Yeah.
And a few months ago, we were here in December, and you said something that's really stuck with me, which is content creation is a public service. You're the first person I've ever heard say that.
Yeah.
And I work with people who work with TikTok, who work for TikTok, who work in the agency. But TikTok was almost taken away from us on January 19th. It was kind of painted as though Donald Trump saved it. What was your take on this whole debacle, if you will, on what happened, what led after it? Did you think that this was a threat of freedom of speech? Did you think it was kind of funny that Donald Trump kind of got the gloat factor of saving TikTok? Like, what are your thoughts?
So I've never been for banning TikTok, and I've been pretty outspoken about that. That's not to say that China doesn't present a serious national security threat. They do. But like, if you think the answer to dealing with China is banning TikTok and taking away the power of creators like you to be able to reach an audience, I just think you're missing the mark. There are far bigger issues that we've got to confront China on. So I've never been for the ban. I've continued to put content out on TikTok, and I believe you've got to meet people where they are, and TikTok is one of the places where a whole lot of people are. I think channel aside, right, you've got to use different platforms to reach different people and engage with them. Donald Trump is not a hero here. Donald Trump was for banning TikTok before he was against banning TikTok. I don't really know what his position is now. I think he claims he's trying to negotiate a deal to get it out of Chinese ownership. If he can do that, great. I want to see the platform continue. I want to see content creators like you be able to reach people where they are. I want to see content creators like you be able to monetize the work that you do. And TikTok, not exclusively, but TikTok is one of those platforms where you're able to do that and do that effectively. So I want to make sure it continues.
Something that was on my For You page a lot during Trump's inauguration was Elon Musk making a gesture that you as a Jewish man and me as a Jewish man have seen before and feared before. What were your thoughts on that?
Look, I don't know what Elon Musk was trying to say with that, but I'll just say in general, those who are trying to emulate Adolf Hitler, a mass murderer who murdered 6 million Jews and millions more who didn't look like him or believe like him, anyone who tries to emulate that, I think should have no place in our politics and no place in a free and open society to be in a leadership role. Again, I don't know what Musk was doing there, but what I do know is leaders have a responsibility to speak and act with moral clarity. And I think it should be a pretty basic baseline level that acting with moral clarity does not involve mimicking Adolf Hitler. I also think we have to be mindful that when there are people in power that say certain things or do certain things that can be interpreted in a way that's bigoted, racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, you name it, that then feels like it gives a pass to others to do the same thing. And you might not see that with the same frequency on your For You page as you saw Musk that day, but it still infects our communities and infects our politics, and it's really dangerous. So I don't know what Musk was doing, but there's a broader issue here, and that is we've got to push back on hatred and bigotry in all forms and not give space to that on our For You pages or in our community centers.
Well said. We talked a lot of negative things. Give us 1, 2, or 3 wins of things that are going on right now, whether it's in the world, in your life. What are some good things going on that we can be happy about?
All right. Look, I'm proud of the work we're doing in Pennsylvania to
There we go.
help kids get a great education, live in a safe community, have economic opportunity. I'm proud of the work we're doing to protect people's freedoms. These are things I'm really proud of that I'm glad we're working on. I got some unfinished business, and looking at your outfit is kind of making me think about that, Brand.
What's so?
I know you know I like my bomber jacket, and I don't know if you saw my fit at the Super Bowl. I had my Eagles bomber jacket.
It was fly.
But I am on the quest for the perfect white T-shirt to go underneath the sweater, the bomber jacket, whatever.
Can I give a recommendation?
I would love a recommendation because I mean, we're getting better education for our kids, safer streets. I still can't crack the code on the white T-shirt.
There's a brand called Cuts.
Cuts.
Yep.
C-U-T-S.
Yep.
All right.
Get your white tee there.
That's where you get it. Because it's got to have like enough sort of thickness to it. So you don't want a see-through one.
Yep.
Got to have a good neck.
Yep.
That'll really complete the look. You'll have the governor look on lock.
I need that. All right.
Absolutely.
Cuts. Do you endorse do you know what he's even
I don't think I've ever heard of them, but
right.
Brandon has great style, but also great fits. Like, you know when something fits you well.
Yes.
So I trust your recommendation.
Yeah.
All right.
Cuts will help you out.
So we're accomplishing a lot, but that's our unfinished business.
Okay.
Yeah.
That we're working on. I got to go on the internet. Remind me. Cuts.
Yeah, somewhere to down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To wrap up, what's an unsolicited recommendation you have? So it could be a TV show you're watching, a book you're reading, a new album that you're listening to. Tell the fans at home something that they might not know. It could be a new recipe, a new food that you're trying.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I can start mine.
Go
I
ahead.
just started the TV show Summer House, which is like a reality show about people who go from New York to the Hamptons on the weekend. And
You like
when we're
that.
talking about finding things during this crazy time to like distract you, that is like my mindless show.
Okay.
Like, I go to that when I'm stressed out in life. I turn on Summer House.
Okay. Sounds good. How about you?
Put them on the spot.
Okay.
You put me on the spot. I can put you on the spot.
I've been really into sweet tea. And I don't mean like sweet tea that you make at home. I mean like nasty Southern. Like, I took a full bag of Domino and just poured it in the
that's
pitcher
not
of
good
sweet
for
tea.
you.
It's so bad for
Yeah.
you. But you guys should try it.
And you go lemonade in there too, or just
Oh, a
straight
little
up tea?
Arnold Palm.
Yeah.
Sounds good. A little half and half.
Yeah, that's good.
No, just the sweet tea.
Okay, got it.
With the
Sweet
straw.
tea. With the straw.
I've been loving the show called Severance. And it's so great. I think you would love it.
Okay.
It's just pretty much about just people are severed. It's like a work-life, right? It's like a work-life balance about if you're at work, you don't remember anything about your home life. And then when you're at home, you don't know anything about your work life.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay.
I'm really into reading right now. I didn't know that Spotify had audiobooks, and that is like
nice.
my number one unsolicited rec. Is if you are liking audiobooks while you're driving, you can listen to them if you have Spotify Premium, which I
love
never
that.
knew. So I've been crushing some books recently.
And you're Spotify, not Apple Music?
Yeah, I love Spotify.
Yeah. I said to Annie and Gavin the other day, I was an Apple Music guy, and I think they thought I was a loser. Yeah.
It's a red flag.
It like comes on your iPhone. It's
does.
easy and yeah.
Listen, as the governor, if
Yeah.
Apple Music is your biggest con,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
That's
I'll
it?
take it.
It is a
it's
con,
like it is
but
a
we'll
con.
allow
We have
it.
Why
bigger
is it
fish
a
to
con?
fry.
I didn't understand that reaction.
I don't know. It's really something I feel like that like randomly happened. Maybe it's when they put U2 album on our phone a few years ago and just forced us to listen to the U2
Yeah.
album, which I grew up listening to U2. No hate there, but somehow Spotify just became like the
Okay.
app, and then it sort of took over.
It's easier on your eyes.
I did not love that when they put that in my Apple Music.
Yeah, I didn't
And I
have-
like you too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. You know, there's another thing because the Apple Music thing is perplexing. Here's the other thing they get on me about. Apparently, you can't put a period at the end of your.
No.
Yeah.
Are you mad at me?
Right. That's what they say. Like they're like, why are you being so aggressive? I'm like, I don't think I
Coming
was
from the
being.
governor, and if I had I mean,
Yeah. No periods at the end of your text. There could be a period in the middle if there's a sentence, but not at the end.
Not the end.
Yeah, then it's too harsh, and then I'm overthinking what you said, and now I'm
Right.
worried that you're upset with me.
exclamation points
God.
work.
Or just
So
nothing.
hard.
But make sure your period's in the middle. You don't want to be grammatically incorrect.
Right.
It's very hard
But
to
not
read.
at the end.
Yes, just not at the
Yeah,
end.
so I've learned that. I'm sticking with Apple Music though. I mean, it's like on my phone. I'm
Yeah,
used
you're
to
already-
it.
yeah.
But I'm really doing my best to get rid of the periods.
Okay.
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 Working on it.
So I would say for me, two things. One, like kind of during that like Christmas, New Year's time where I got a few days home with the kids, which was really nice. I always wanted to watch with all of our kids Friday Night Lights, the TV series.
So good.
And so we started binge watching that. I know everybody watched this like 10 years ago, but that, I got to tell you, we loved that. And it was really fun to watch that together. although we haven't had much time since then, so I got to get back to it.
I've never seen the show. I've only seen the movie, and the movie's one of my
Movie's
favorite.
great.
It's one of my favorite movies.
I read
Show's
the
really
book.
great.
The book was really good.
Yeah, the book's really great too. Buzz Bissinger, I think, pretty great author. But then I'll tell you, on the culinary side, I'm learning to make everything in an air fryer.
Me too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just got one.
Yeah, like everything you can make in there. So that's kind of my new thing. So if we're here, like usually I feel very blessed. You know, there's good meals. Sometimes when we go home to our house at home and I get home late, I'm like, hey, babe, did you like save anything? And she's like, no, I didn't. So I can quickly make something in the air fryer.
Air fryer is one of the
So I'm
best
kind of getting into
inventions.
that.
It's the best.
Yeah. I think I'm also years behind on that, but I'm catching
Okay,
up.
you're on it now.
I love it. Guys, should we wrap up with an Eagles chant?
Just the EAGLES.
Yeah.
The full, I don't know if I can do the
I can
full
kick it
song.
off, ready?
Okay, go ahead.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles.
Thank you guys so much. Don't keep everything between us, girlies. Share this one with your friends. Thank you, honorary girlie, Governor Shapiro.
I love
Thank
it.
you so
I'm an
much.
honorary girlie and an honorary member of the inner circle in Punxsutawney.
Absolutely.
By the way, that's a hell of a range right there.
You're crushing
You need
it.
to put that on your everything, like
Yeah. I
LinkedIn,
think I'm
bio.
going to.
Yes,
I got to update my LinkedIn.
you do.
We need to add it to the group chat.
I know.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.